podcast coming to you live on Facebook and YouTube on a Tuesday again. We are back. Grant and myself are back. Grant holding her down in Plymouth here while I'm back in the cold tundra of Dickinson, North Dakota. We're back for another week. We got another loaded show here. Got an exciting week ahead, actually. Grant, go ahead.
What's your temperature there? It's chilly here, but I want to compare.
It was, I don't even know. Let's see. Right now it says it's 17, feels like 9 degrees.
We might have you beat there.
I think you might. I think I saw it was supposed to be colder. Because I was looking at the weather because, spoiler alert, I'm going to be in Minneapolis this weekend for the Gophers Wolverines game on Thursday night, and then we're going to hang out and go watch some football together on Saturday before I head back Sunday. But yeah, it looks like we're actually going to have some nice weather with
warm up.
Highs of 33 and 37. Jesus, t-shirt weather. I might not even bring a winter coat.
Take your shirt off while you're at it.
Yeah. Well, you want me to?
No, because then we'll end up like the Tennessee Volunteers and have a flat show. And we don't want that.
No, we don't. And you know what's funny about that is this morning when I went to go out and start my car at like 4:30 in the morning, I did go out without a shirt on. Just some people like cold plunges. I like running out with my shirt off to start my car.
Hey, was it cold enough where you could hang a coat on your nips this morning, man? Was it that cold? They were sticking out that far where you could get a coat hanger up there?
You know, the thing about that, Grant, is that I just naturally have that, and it doesn't matter what the temperature is. Like I had a picture. I think we were in San Diego. We were hiking at Torrey Pines, and there it was. They were shooting out, and I had a buddy that he one time, I think he had a few, and he looked back on my Instagram, and literally all of any one where it was they were pointing out, he asked if I was cold.
Nipples, nature's thermostats.
I've never heard that one. That's a pretty good one there.
It is. I like that. That's good.
But it is the Three Guys Talking Ball podcast. We got a loaded football show again for you guys. We're gonna try and keep it under an hour here. Got a lot to talk about. We got a college football semi-final recap. We got wild card weekend recap. We got divisional round preview and national championship preview to bring out to round up the show. And Grant's going to finish it out with curveball of the week. Wow, voice really cracked there.
Are you 14 years old again, Dylan?
Yeah, I also funny story about that is one of the reasons I don't ever read in church anymore, or haven't read since I was 14. It was Ash Wednesday Mass, and I was supposed to do the responsorial for first reading and responsorial psalm, and I was losing my voice and like leading up to it, and like I couldn't talk. Teacher could hear it, and she was like, "Oh, you'll be fine. You'll be fine." I guess I squeaked the entire time, like couldn't talk at all, and I guess I squeaked like I'd be walking through the hall and they'd be like squeaky. And I'm like, what are they talking about? Because like you're talking into a microphone, so you can't really fully hear yourself because the speakers are so loud.
Mm-hmm.
I had no idea what they were talking about, and I'm like, I can't. I'm like, what happened? Like, what are they talking about here? And they're like, you squeaked a lot, like your voice cracked. I was like, oh no, I told her I couldn't talk and I shouldn't do it, but she made me do it. And well, I guess I faced those fears. And now I have a podcast, so I guess I exercise those demons, you could say.
You got past the childhood trauma.
childhood. That's probably a good way to describe us.
Because Dylan, real quick, 9th grade year of football, we were having practice, and our quarterback was under center, and he squeaked
Were you the center?
No, I was playing defense, I believe, at the time.
Okay.
It was in some part of practice. And, he goes, down, set. He squeaked so bad. Everything stopped. And the whole coaches and players were all just laughing and losing their mind because it was such a high squeak that nobody could keep themselves cool.
Oh, that's no good. Not good.
It was not good. But it was funny, but not good.
Yeah. Well, you know what also was not good, Grant? Drew Aller's performance in the Orange Bowl.
Oh, it looked like that looked like.
Actually, I will. So he was bailed out. He should have had 3 interceptions. Only had the 1 because the 2 interceptions he threw that got bailed out on questionable at best pass interference calls.
Questionable at best.
Those looked like it looked like Mitch Leidner was suited up in a Penn State jersey.
Dude, and you know what? That's insulting to Mitch Leidner.
Oh, wow. Woo.
That looked like Cade McNamara playing Penn State last year in the whiteout game.
Oh. Ooh, that's not good.
No, Dylan, I have a better one. That looked like New Year's Day 2015, Missouri, Minnesota. Dylan hungover at home, eating a surf and turf, wondering why he's 1, alive, and 2, why he's watching this football game. That's what that performance was like.
That sounds pretty spot on. You know me well.
Yes. Also, Dylan,
maybe someday
someday
we can get people to pay for our to listen to us, and we will have a secret. We'll have a subscriber only show where we discuss and break down some of our inside jokes that we have. Some of these stories we just can't give away for free. We gotta monetize that because there's certain parts of it that, like, if you want to hear more, you gotta subscribe and you gotta pay for it. Yeah,
you gotta pay for it. But another one, Dylan, was I'd compare Drew Aller's performance was the sad Darrell Castro wave flag at Iowa, Minnesota, 2014.
I like how all of these have Mitch Leidner involved in it.
They all have Mitch Leidner involved.
For better or for worse.
Oh, boy.
But also, you can also blame the receivers because this has been a problem at Penn State since KJ Hamler left. They have not had good breaking receivers, and Kotelnicki did his best to hide it. And you can only do so much when you have Tyler Warren, Drew Aller, Nick Singleton, Katron Allen, and those guys had a couple of misplays too. They had that. Aller had a good throw to, I think it would have been Allen, who had a walk-in touchdown, just didn't catch it. And they end up having to settle for 3. And when it came down to it, Notre Dame made more plays. We talked about this last week in the with NDSU Montana State. The game was going to come down to 5-6 plays. And you saw this in the semifinal that we're going to talk about in a little bit here in the Cotton Bowl. The game came down to 5 to 6 plays. Notre Dame made those plays. Mm-hmm. They made the interception. Now, it was a terrible throw. The guy still has that. Notre Dame secondary is fantastic, and they're going to have to do it again next week. But
still gotta catch the ball.
Yep. The backup quarterback that for Notre Dame, who's Angeloni, something Italian. I mean, that drive before the end of the half where they were able to get 3. It kind of sparked that Notre Dame offense, and then they go down and score right away. And then that big play that Leonard hit to the Notre Dame receiver to get him to tie the game up. And then There's one more. Oh, the Jeremiah Love grown-ass man run.
Yes. That was the play where I think Notre Dame, that sparked them. Kind of like Baker Mayfield these last 2 weeks, where he's had those long third down runs and he's run over a linebacker. Whenever you have an all juice guy making an all juice football play where you run a dude or two or three dudes over and you score a touchdown, it puts some life into your team, into your program. And Notre Dame needed that.
Yes. And you look at those two teams that were James Franklin still can't win the big game. And I actually thought that they had a good game plan. I thought they did a good job of getting their playmakers the ball, unlike what they did against Ohio State in the regular season. But at some point, the receivers were going to have to make a play, and they just never did.
Yeah, and that was a problem for Penn State all year. Like when you have superior talent than 95% of the teams you're playing, well, they had superior talent than, yeah, we'll say 93 or 94% of the teams they played this year, minus the Ohio State and Oregon game. You can get away with those flaws, but when you're in a national semifinal and you're playing maybe the best secondary in the nation collectively, your wide receivers need to make a play. You can't look like the 2014 Kansas City Chiefs out there trying to win a Final Four game. That doesn't happen. And it's kind of an embarrassment on this program and this coaching staff. They want to talk about how they're one of the best brands and programs in the country. Well, how you have 0 receptions in a national semifinal from a wide receiver group is frankly embarrassing, and it shouldn't happen.
It shouldn't. And that's why Notre Dame won, and that's why they're playing for their first national title since the 2012 season. Hopefully it goes a little bit better. We're going to preview that to end the show here. But let's go to the Cotton Bowl, the other game, college football semifinal game. And, similarly, we talked about it. Ohio State made the plays when they had to. The play right before half, the Henderson terrible play call by their Texas's defensive coordinator to call a corner blitz on that, especially after it felt like Texas kind of had the momentum. They survived Ohio State's best punches. They were able to kind of weather the storm. The defense played well outside of a few plays, and then
because it would have been 7-7 at that point, right?
It would have been 7-7, and well, yeah, it would have been 7-7, and then Texas
got the ball back.
Got that interception, yeah. They would have had to. Ohio State had the ball out of the. Ohio State had the ball out of the halftime.
That's right.
And they had the Howard interception, but it was a back and forth affair, and we're going to talk about Sark. This has been a common theme in big games that Sark has coached in, where he outthinks himself and outsmarts himself and tries to come up with the fancy exotic play call where you don't need to be fancy or cute or do anything. Go with what got you there. And they run the toss that pushes them back 7 yards. And then Jack Sawyer had his highlight play of his career to put that game away.
Big time players make big time plays in big time games. And frankly, again, for Texas, this was the third time this year they've played a good front seven. And unfortunately, this is the third time this year that they got whipped around. Texas couldn't get anything going in the running game. They found something in the passing game, getting these backs out on linebackers and in space, but they couldn't get anything going in the running game. And when you're already out Isaiah Bond and Matthew Golden leaves the game in the first quarter with an ankle injury, if you can't get that running game going to get the play action pass and the deep shots going, because that's when Quinn Ewers and Sark thrive, is when they can get the play action going and they can get you going deep. But they couldn't do it against Ohio State. Ohio State made it a drop back pass game, and it played right to their advantage. And
I thought Ewers played well. Ewers does not get the credit. He has played well, and it never I mean, we talked about it a little bit on this show about him maybe going to Arch, but you never really saw that. And going back to not getting the running game going, I'm surprised they didn't try to incorporate Arch a little bit more, because he is more of a threat with his legs outside of the one run that they had on that 4th down. But it was it was that you said it. They just couldn't, against a good front seven. They weren't able to run the ball effectively enough, and that's why they're going to be watching this game on Monday night at home.
And also, credit to Ohio State in this game, because in the first 2 playoff games, it was the Jeremiah Smith show. And you're wondering, okay, yeah, when he's going, they're going, and nobody can stop these guys. But if he's having an off night, can the other players step up? And when they needed Travion Henderson and Junkins to make a play, they did. So credit to those guys, and also credit to Texas's defensive game plan for double teaming Jeremiah Smith. And also, I thought this was smart, Dylan, playing a lot of zone, making these receivers know when they have to stop their routes, and when they can keep going in these soft coverages, and kind of confusing Will Howard a little bit, because you play man against Ohio State, and we'll talk about this a little bit more going forward here. Good luck. With the way Chip Kelly designs plays and his motions and everything else like that, you're going to have guys screaming open down the field. You got to sit back and make these receivers react to your defense. And Texas did that, but you know what? They couldn't make enough plays when they needed to in terms of stopping the big play, or Ohio State
getting a holding call on a 3rd down that would have on their game-winning drive. But
yeah, but also
I had to get one dig in.
When Texas was sitting back in that zone, and they said, Ohio State, beat us on the ground because we trust our front seven, which has been good all year. Guess what? Ohio State dominated the line of scrimmage. Apparently, they only do that against everyone else but Michigan. But that's besides.
That was a big boy drive by them. That was a we're tougher than you drive, and we're going to prove it. But
the team with, does Ohio State have better players than Texas and everyone else in the country? Yeah, but you know what? For 3 straight games, when they've needed to make plays, they've made them, and they've dominated.
Yep, and that's why they're playing on Monday night. But let's take a break from the college action, and let's go to the NFL. Let's recap every game from Wild Card Weekend here. And Grant, I'll let you take the lead on this Chargers-Texans game, because I didn't get to see a good chunk of this game. I got to see about until the final 6 minutes of the second quarter, and it was 6-0 when I left, and it felt like, well, Houston's hanging in there. But at some point, felt like the Chargers were gonna just kind of impose their will and flex on them, and it was gonna be they're gonna pull away, kind of like what we talked about. And then I get out of church, and I look and I see the score is 10-6 Houston. So what happened with about 6 minutes left in the third? So can you fill me in on those? What happened in those final?
Yeah. So actually, I want to say with 3 minutes left in the half, the Chargers punted, and Houston got the ball at their own 1 yard line. So to score a touchdown, they had to go 99 yards. Well, they get to a 3rd and I want to say 10 situation at their 9 after they get a first down or something like that. It's a 3rd down play. They're inside their 10 yard line. Snap goes over Stroud's head. You're thinking all hell's about to break loose. CJ picks it up, scrambles to the right, looks across the middle of the field, finds the number 4 receiver on the Texans, throws an absolute dart to him. They get a 32-yard completion, and then they go up to the line of scrimmage, and they go fast. They score fast, and before you know it, it's like, okay, they're going down the field. They got some momentum. And then they go down and they find Nico Collins. Nico scores a touchdown. It's 7-6. Then they get the ball back again before the end of the half. They kick that field goal to go up 10-6. And at that point, Houston's offense, they found that momentum. CJ Stroud put his team on his back. But more importantly, that Houston defense calmed down. The Chargers' offensive line could not block anybody. on Saturday. Will Anderson, Daniil Hunter, Mario Edwards Jr., and then Autry. I'm drawing a blank on his first name. They dominated that game.
D'Amico?
Oh, I can't remember. He's number 96. 96. He's got dreadlocks. They could not block anybody. And then coming out of the second half, Harbaugh said to Evan Washburn, he goes, it's going to be a game of pass protection and pass rushing. And the Chargers could not block anybody, and they could not get to C.J. Stroud. But more importantly for the Texans, Dylan, they got Joe Mixon going.
Yeah. That looked like vintage prime Joe Mixon.
When they got Joe Mixon going, that opened up their passing game. And surprise, surprise, this offense thrives under the passing game because it's based off what Shanahan does. And the Chargers, they had no response. That Chargers team at the end, they looked tired. They looked like a team that had a new culture established. They had a long training camp. It's a physical year. They looked exhausted.
It was their third. I think that was their fourth straight road game. Third or fourth straight road game. And then they were also dealing with the fires that were going on in California where they had messed up their travel schedule as well.
And also, it's already a short week. They play the Raiders on Sunday, and you have to go to Houston on Saturday. That team they looked tired. And Houston, they looked refreshed. Once they kind of calmed down, you could tell Houston they didn't play their starters the week before. Their legs were just better than them, and it wasn't the Chargers' day. I will say this. The Chargers' lack of skilled players on offense came back to bite them in the ass. And
yep.
Will Dissly had 2 bad drops. That's something Quentin Johnson played bad. This is something the Chargers are going to have to figure out. This isn't a dig at Jim Harbaugh and his coaching staff, but it's not Michigan anymore where you can just dominate the line of scrimmage and win a national championship and win a Super Bowl. Yes, you need to do that, but you also need skilled players on the outside who can make plays. And take away Ladd McConkey, they have nobody.
Like you look at Michigan's teams the last few years. I mean, it took Harbaugh for them to 3 or 4 years to really get that offensive line going. And then the receivers, even last year on that national championship team, I mean, Roman Wilson was probably their best receiver. Colston Love, they don't, what the Chargers are also missing, and I mean, it's been a Harbaugh staple since he's been a coach, is they don't have that game-breaking tight end like he had in San Francisco or like what he had at Stanford or what he's had at Michigan. Yep. They don't have that yet. I think that's going to be something they're going to obviously address. I think there's a tremendous tight end that they could draft that was played for Harbaugh at Michigan. But there's still a lot of work to be done. I think everybody in the Chargers organization knows it, but I think they feel a lot better about this season than they have in other seasons for sure. And they know that it's going to be this isn't going to be the last time they're in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm. And another thing, looking at this Chargers team and all these players on the defensive side of the ball who were making plays in the first part of this game, is that's another aspect they're going to have to really nail, is getting good young defensive players, because this defense is old. Khalil Mack's not going to be able to be around forever. Joey Bosa is going to miss.
He's a free agent.
And you know what? Some team might overpay him to get a 34 or 35-year-old. Who knows? He might want to stay with the Chargers. But, Bosa's getting older. Derwin James isn't going to be around for a lot longer. They're going to have to get some good young defensive players to build this future on here going forward in Los Angeles.
Yep, and let's keep moving here. We got the other Saturday game, Ravens-Steelers. Not a whole lot to talk about. The biggest thing coming out of this is it's another Tomlin dud, playoff dud. I saw the meme on Facebook of, I think Antonio Brown tweeted it out, of Mike Tomlin slowly turning into Doc Rivers, but I don't think that's entirely accurate. No. Because Doc Rivers gets the lead and then blows them. Tomlin doesn't even get leads. They just come out flat. They look uninspired. And I I don't want to say it, but I think the discussion has to be had of, has Tomlin's voice, has it gotten too familiar in that Steelers organization where players just aren't responding to it anymore? And you look at the coaching staff he hires, it's just a bunch of old guys. Like, I don't know if you can name anybody off a Mike Tomlin coaching tree, because there really isn't. It always seems like he always gets those old dudes that are failed head coaches that he gets to come in and be the coordinators, and it just isn't working out.
Well, and also, Dylan, I think
it doesn't help that when you don't have a quarterback.
Thank you. I was trying to get there.
Big Ben exposed or covered up, just like it's anybody in the NFL or any.
Look what
you're only as good as what your quarterback is. Yeah.
Tom Brady, Pat Mahomes, Matt Stafford, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow. These great quarterbacks, they cover up holes in your whole organization. They're the greatest thing of makeup we have in the world today. Is a great.
What type of makeup, Grant, are you talking about here?
I'm talking about anything. I mean, if you want to talk about what these celebrity women look like before and after their makeup, before, no quarterback, with makeup on, having Tom Brady as your quarterback. Like, that's how important the quarterback position is. And with the Steelers bringing Russ in, I don't think this team wanted Russ. I think this team wanted to stick with Justin Fields. And the cornball that Russell Wilson is, he wore on the Steelers locker room. And I think they didn't respond because they know at 36 years old, Russell Wilson is not the player he used to be. And Russell Wilson cannot play anymore. And this team knows it. So when they got down 14-0, they knew the game was over.
And watching, I finally got caught up on Hard Knocks over the weekend. And it was Russ talking after the game, after they lost to the Bengals, talking about, we just got to win 4 straight, talking to Cam Haywood. And he's just looking like, dude, you watching the same game we're watching? We're getting our asses kicked in Baltimore next week, and it's gonna be 1, 2, 3 Cancun.
Exactly. But yeah, I think to your point, what has Arthur Smith done as a play caller to give him a second chance? As a head coach, he was 7-10, 3 years in a row? 7-9, 3 years in a row. Okay, yeah, in Tennessee he had 2.5 good years of a year and a half of Ryan Tannehill and rejuvenating his career. But when you have the King and Derrick Henry in Tennessee, I don't care who your offensive coordinator is, Derrick Henry's going to make them look better than what he is. And Terrell Austin as a defensive coordinator, to your point, Dylan, what has he done? It's the Steelers defense. Yeah, it's supposed to be good. Keyword supposed to be good. But whenever they play good offense, they get lit up like a Christmas tree. And where
was TJ Watt? Nowhere to be found.
Nowhere to be found. Did not record a single stat in that game. But I remember hearing Edelman say that with Belichick would talk about the Steelers in this aspect. They're a team who's going to do what they're going to do. And when you read it like that, they don't make adjustments. What they put on tape is what they do. And when you play a team as many times like the Ravens and Steelers do, the Ravens know how to attack that. And they're going to win. The only reason the Ravens lost the first game of the Steelers was because they had 3 turnovers in Pittsburgh. If they didn't have those 3 turnovers, they win that game.
Yep, and there's gonna be a lot of questions going into in the Steel City as the Ravens move on. Let's go to the Sunday games. Bills, Broncos. Boy, it started out like Sean Payton was gonna back up everything he talked about. Be aggressive. That first touchdown, deep shot over the top to Ty Franklin, and then the fake punt. And then after that, it was run, pass, punt, run, pass, punt, run, pass, punt. And the Bills D-line, they were eating all day. They talked about early in the year that they were going to limit Von Miller's snap count so he is fresh for the playoffs. And boy, did he look fresh for the playoffs in this game. He was living in the Broncos' backfield. And they were able to run the ball really well, which really opened up that downfield passing game. Curtis Samuel had a deep touchdown. It looked like he was running running free for Ohio State, but just a dominating effort by the Bills, a game that a lot of people thought, oh, don't sleep on the Broncos. And it was over halfway through the third quarter.
I saw Buffalo had the ball for 41 minutes on Sunday?
It was something like that, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, this was a game where Buffalo knew that eventually they'll break Denver. They just had to, like Michigan last year, get that boa constrictor hold on them, and it'll look close. And then, like to your point, Dylan, midway through the second half, this thing's over. And Buffalo's cruising on to play another home game next week.
Yep. We're going to keep cruising. Eagles versus Packers. Not a game that we thought was going to be a tight, exciting game, but it did not. It was ugly on both sides. Jalen Hurts, I think he still might be recovering from that concussion. You know, we got to see Kellen Moore in all his glory and fineness as a play caller and potentially future head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. We hear how he is this great run game designer, but he's got Saquon Barkley, and that looked pedestrian at best. And it was just not the most exciting part of the game was that Josh Jacobs run, but other than that, it was not it was basically, I think the Eagles looked to the other side and said that there's no way this team is going to beat us as long as we don't turn the ball over, and they didn't.
Mm-hmm.
And the Packers finished losing 3 straight to end the season.
Yeah, and you know, Dylan, this game, Green Bay didn't have a chance in this game. After what you just look at all the injuries that they had throughout this whole thing, it's just they were just losing players left and right. And I get it, the Eagles lost Nakobe Dean for the year too, but it is just a war of attrition. And I mean, now the Toyotathon is over, we should know that the Jordan Love experiment and project is going to go down in flames. And it did on Sunday. But again,
such a shame.
When you're out with what a shame. But when you're without your top 3 pass catchers, what can you do? And when you're playing a damn good defense in Philadelphia, where that secondary makes you earn it, and you got to work your way down the field, there's not much you can do about that. But yeah, I was looking forward to this game. Turned out to be really sloppy. And you look at the Eagles, and it's like, if they don't clean this up, they're not going to win next week.
No, they're not. And another team that was sloppy and didn't clean it up in time is the Bucs. Commanders move on, game-winning field goal, a doink, which we get a doink in the playoffs again. But the Bucs, that game flipped on the fumble by Baker Mayfield and ending up having to settle for that field goal to tie it, where they run a jet sweep that they lose a few yards, and then they miscommunication on that quarterback center exchange and end up losing a few yards to end up having to settle for a field goal. But and not to mention it obviously didn't matter, but Todd Bowles, his inability, it was like he was like on a delay. He was like on the taco delay from the league, where it was like he would let like 3 or 4 seconds just run off and then call a timeout. I didn't understand what was going on with the Bucs, and in the playoffs we talk about, a team that's going to make the fewest mistakes is going to win. As duh moment that sounds, you would think you can say till we're blue in the face, but that's exactly how these playoff games have gone. The team that's made the fewest mistakes has won. I can't point to a game where, oh yeah, that team made more mistakes and somehow won the game. It didn't happen in this round. It might happen in the next round because there's a team that's playing that has been the king of that this year. But
you're done. So can we go to the Vikings Rams games now?
Yeah, if you got nothing on this game, yeah, we'll talk Vikings Rams. The great game plan by McVay. Out there, aggressive, finding soft spots in the zones, and then on defense, they're going back to the start of it is they established early. You could tell by the way he drew up that first drive. It was like, we're going to go out. We're going to be the aggressor in this, and we're going to see if the Vikings can throw punches back. And they proved that they could not.
Yeah, and just, the one thing you were watching the Vikings all year is their interior offensive line play. You wanted to check that out, and they got dominated all game. I mean, that pressure was fast and quick, and it was getting in Sam Darnold's lap. And there wasn't a whole lot he could do. When you get sacked 9 times in a game, like I said, that's just because you have constant pressure in your face, and he did. But then also,
he never got rid of the ball.
He never got rid of the ball, like Aikman said multiple times last night. He held on to that thing forever, and it catches up to you. And the Vikings, they couldn't get any cohesion on offense going, and when they couldn't get the running game going, this year they've struggled in games, and they struggled again now. So going to be a long off season, here for the Vikes. What to do with the quarterback position, some expiring contracts and such like that, but just anything and everything that could have went wrong, it seemed like it did. Also, add in the fact that they got their ass handed to them by that strong, Rams defense up front.
Yep. And the Rams, they're healthy, and they are a freight train that you don't want to be on the tracks for. So
yeah,
let's go up. Stay in the NFL divisional round games. We'll start with the Saturday games. We'll start with the first one, Chiefs-Texans. Texans, if they want a prayer in this game, they got to run the ball like they did against the Chargers, which is going to be a tough ask against the that front four of the Chiefs defensive line. And the other part of it is they actually moved the ball pretty well against the Chiefs in that first game. They ended up just having to settle for field goals. They can't do that this game, or their season's going to end. And on the defensive side for the Texans, they got to get off the field on third down. And if they are able to turn Mahomes over like they were able to turn over Justin Herbert 4 times, they have to capitalize on it. They can't come up empty-handed. And right now for the Chiefs, it's playoff time. It's do or die. They've had a week to prepare, and it just feels like they've been sitting on something. Andy Reid coming off a bye is always strong. I think that the Texans, they find a way to make this a game. But in the end, I think the Chiefs are going to make a couple of more plays on third down. We're going to get some Mahomes magic. We're going to get some third downs that Texans should have had him bottled up. He gets out. He makes a play. I got the Chiefs winning 27-22.
Yeah, I think the big aspect in this game is going to be how do the Chiefs tackles hold up, and who is going to play tackle for the Chiefs on Saturday. Is it going to be DJ Humphries, who struggled in the last regular season game, and you're going to slide Joe Thuney back in at guard? Or is Joe Thuney going to play left tackle? You got Caliendo going to play guard, and then Jawan Taylor there at right tackle. If those tackles can play well and they keep Mahomes up, they're going to move the ball like they did in this first game against Houston, because having Hollywood Brown back has been huge, even if it's just in these 2 games. But it's another deep threat with him and Xavier Worthy. So then Kelsey and Noah Gray can control the middle of the field. So, like I said, if the Texans don't have their pass rush going, I think this game is going to be hard for them to win. And I think also the Texans' interior O-line being extremely weak this year. I'm looking at Chris Jones, Mike Pennell, and Sean Wharton to have a big game against C.J. Stroud, and I like the Chiefs winning, this game, Dylan, 28-19.
28-19, similar to the first game. Mm-hmm. And the Lions Commanders, the second game on Saturday. Commanders coming off that big win in Tampa. They got to go back up on the road. Detroit hosting their 3rd playoff game the last 2 years. Ford Field is going to be rocking. The big thing is That defense is getting a little bit healthier. It sounds like David Montgomery is going to be back for the Lions. I think this bye week gave them some much needed rest. And, the key to that Lions defense, it proved to be Alex Anzalone, who came back and was a force on the defense. And I think you're going to see a lot of blitzing from Aaron Glenn, because I think the Lions, their defense is so beaten up where that's really going to be their only hope, is getting pressure. But they have to do it with integrity, because if they let Jaden Daniels get out of the pocket, he's going to burn you all game like he did against the Bucs. I do think the Lions find a way to do that. I think they're going to play a lot of ball control offense. I think they're going to really try to gash that Commanders defense with Gibbs and Montgomery and not make this a drop back pass game, which Goff struggles in. I have the Lions. I think this game is close at halftime, but I think in the end, I think the Lions pull away. I got them winning 31-17.
Yeah, I think honestly, this game might be the fastest game of the weekend. Like Dylan, this game might get done in 2.5 hours, because to your point, both teams are going to have a lot of long drives. It's going to take time off the clock. But I think the difference is that the Lions are going to convert on their drives and score touchdowns. The Commanders are either going to kick field goals, or Dan Quinn is going to be aggressive and go for it, and they're not going to get it at all. And this Commanders team, they've had a hell of a year, and they're playing great, and they've bought into Dan Quinn, but they just don't have the horses yet. And this Lions offensive line is so good and so dominant. I can't see the Commanders holding up, and I think this thing's going to get ugly. I think it's going to be 38-14 Lions, just because I think that O-line is just going to lean on those guys, and they're gonna take the game over. And then I also think the Commanders are going to go for it a couple times on drives, and they're going to stall, and they're going to miss points, and eventually the floodgates are going to open, and the Lions win this thing pretty handily.
All right, Grant's got a 38-14. Let's go to the let's stay in the NFC, go to the Saturday or Sunday games. Eagles-Rams starting us off. And for the Rams, they're going to need that defensive effort. And I think by law of averages, and you see this a lot, a team that doesn't play well, they usually play better the next week. I think we're going to see a better version of the Eagles. I think they're going to be this is nut cutting time. And they are going to, I think they're going to have a better game plan. And I think they're going to run the ball. They're going to give Saquon the horse the ball, and they're going to be able to run the ball effectively. I think this is going to be one where can the Rams offensive line protect Stafford, which they didn't do a great job of in that first game. Granted, they weren't as healthy, but I think playing on the road, they, not sure what their week of practice is going to look like as the with the Fires, because it is very close to their facility, and obviously you won't hope everybody is safe there. But does that catch up to them? I think them going across country, I think them playing in Arizona last night, I think that catches up to them. So in the end, I think I have the Rams hang in there tough, but I have the Eagles winning 27-23.
Yeah, I'm with you. And I mean, when these teams played in what was it, week 12, week 13, it was the weekend before Thanksgiving. That's when Saquon went nuclear, and just the Rams couldn't be stopped. This Rams defense is young, and they're playing fast and they're playing physical, but this isn't the Vikings offensive line they're playing this week. This is the best offensive line in the NFL, and I think that's going to be the difference. I think they're just going to lean. And the Rams have struggled with the run all year. I know that the Packers gashed them when the Packers and Rams played. The Dolphins had a big game on the ground. Of course, the Eagles. This Rams defense has been right around average all year. They had their best game of the year on Monday night, but I don't think that their defensive front will be able to hold up against the Eagles O-line. And then also, In return, I think the Eagles have maybe the best defense in the NFL left, right now. And Fangio is going to mix his coverages up in the back end just enough to kind of confuse Stafford, and the Eagles D line is going to dominate this game. So give me the Birds 29-19.
29-19. Okay. And the final game, and the game with the most excitement, and I can't wait for this one, frankly, is going to be Bills-Ravens in Buffalo. I think this game is going to come down to the team that runs the ball the best. Both teams have been effective. So this might, instead of runs the ball the best, is who stops the run the best. I think this is going to be a low-scoring, physical game. And, the biggest deficiency with Lamar, biggest question mark is in the playoffs when his back is against the wall and it's forced into a drop back pass game. Lamar has not delivered. And the other part of it too is it looks like it is going to be cold in Buffalo. We're going to get a vintage Buffalo weather game. Lamar has not done particularly well in the cold. And I think for that reason, I think the way this Bills team is playing, I think they are hungry. They are on a mission. I think they feel that pain from last year's missed field goal loss where they feel like they should have beaten the Chiefs in Buffalo where they had them in their house. They don't lose in the divisional round this year. I got the Bills winning 24-20.
Yeah, this game is going to be interesting because Baltimore's pass defense is so bad. And Josh Allen is playing at such a high level, and Joe Brady is dialed in right now. And I really think Buffalo's going to be able to attack this Buffalo defense. And that game when they played in Week 4, that was over after the first play of the game when Henry went for 80 yards.
Yeah.
Like, the Red Sea parted. He went up on the safety, threw a stiff arm, and that thing was over. McDermott is such a good coach. He's going to get that fixed. Buffalo's going to play with better technique in this game. And I just think they're going to slow down the Ravens' running game enough. And then also, without having Zay Flowers this week, this is when not having a number one might catch up to Buffalo. Because now McDermott can sit back and he can say, okay, we have to take away Mark Andrews. We have to make Rashad Bateman, beat us. Because if they can stop the run and they take Andrews away, I don't think Lamar's as good enough of a passer to take this game over himself with just his arm and no healthy pass catchers. With that, but in return, he's going to make a couple special plays where he's in the pocket, he's running around, and he makes a bunch of guys miss and throws a touchdown, and we're just like, what do you do? He's special, but Josh Allen is more special. And like I said, this Buffalo offense with Joe Brady is just humming. I think he's going to be able to attack that weak pass defense of Baltimore. And I like Buffalo to win this game 28-22.
28-22. Okay, a bit of a scoregami here. So that wraps up our NFL predictions here for the week. Sure to go wrong. Let us know what you guys think. Make sure if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you hop in the comments and tell us what your predictions for each game is. And let's wrap up. Let's get to the national championship preview Monday night. Notre Dame versus Ohio State. Ohio State is 8-point favorites, a large favorite in this one. And I think keys for Notre Dame is that similar to what Texas was, is they got to survive that first quarter and get through it. Because Ohio State's looking to get out to that fast start. Again, limit big plays. And I think for both teams, I think they're very similar styles. They want to play the same way. I think Notre Dame wants to be a little bit more, I'd say is a little bit more ground and pound and control the ball on the ground where they're not going to throw it out. They're going to, if they do take deep shots, they're going to have to hit them and capitalize on them. Where Ohio State, they can beat you running the ball. They can beat you throwing the ball. And I think this game comes down to which quarterback doesn't make that big mistake, which both are prone to do. And right now, I give the nod to Will Howard. And I hate to say it, but I really don't see this game being close. I think Ohio State is just playing too well. They didn't play great against Texas in their eyes. It wasn't that, what we saw the first two rounds of the playoffs. It was a grinded out game, which I think that is. I think that kind of centers their focus back on what they need to do. I don't see this game being close. I think Ohio State wins in a rout 31-13.
Dylan, I'm with you. And also the injuries that Notre Dame has, they're finally going to catch up to them. Love being out or his knee not being 100%. Both of your starting tackles are gone. Your two starting defensive tackles along the defensive line. When you're playing Ohio State, you need to be at your best, especially up front, because Ohio State, they do have a bunch of men on their offensive lines and defensive lines right now, and Notre Dame is just not there. And then Notre Dame, they played man coverage and they blitzed all year. Well, guess what? I think that finally comes back to bite them in the ass. If it's Jeremiah Smith, Emeka Abuka, or Henderson out of the backfield, they're going to make a play when they're in one-on-one, and it's going to be an explosive play that Notre Dame just gives up. And Notre Dame's offense is not explosive enough to go back and forth with Ohio State. I'm with you. They're 4 yards in a cloud of dust down the field, but that's not going to work this week. And Riley Leonard is not a polished passer enough to where he can make those plays happen. He's going to have a couple bad turnovers. I'm with you. I think it's going to be a rout. I think we're going to turn this game off probably by the end of the third quarter. But give me Ohio State 35, Notre Dame 17.
35-17. And I will add this, that this is not my quote. This is who Ohio State's football facility is named after. This is a quote from one Woody Hayes. You cannot claim a national championship without beating your rival Michigan. His words, not mine. You guys treat him like he's a god. I'm just quoting what the patron of Ohio State football says. Those are his words, not mine. But Grant, let's kick it over to you for curveball of the week.
So, just kind of a question for you, Dylan, in terms of like recreational, sports activities and the
drugs
you can do outside. No, not drugs. Remember, okay. Hugs, not drugs, and just say no.
Hugs, not drugs,
and just say no. But in terms of like activities that you can do outside for sports, not your main sports, like kind of stuff. I'm talking stuff more like X Games related. What is something that
I ain't doing nothing X Games related?
Well, when I say that, like skiing, snowboarding, maybe in the summer, like, ride the jet ski or water skiing. What's an activity like that you wish you did as a kid that in return you could do now today?
Ooh. Well, so I have done some skiing. I'm not very good at it, but I can do it. Takes me a little bit to get warmed up, but I didn't do a lot of fishing as a kid. I do it a little bit more now. I have fun doing that, but maybe, and now that I think about it more, like I could say hunting, but I like my Saturdays where I can sit down and watch college football for 14 hours during the day. So maybe one thing I wish I would have gotten more into, and we did it a lot when I was like a senior in high school. We went through a phase was frolfing, banging some chains.
Oh, okay. No, that is fun. I've frolfed a couple times, and it's a good time.
And it's way less stressful than golf.
Oh, way less stressful, which makes it that much more fun because you're not dealing with the stress of regular golf.
Correct.
I don't know. This is just me, but with Miranda moving out, my sister, she just got a job out in Colorado. They're moving out there, and Alec having his job pretty much out there. And at the end of the month, they're having a weekend where they're all going skiing. I think skiing or snowboarding, when you can go out into like the Rockies, like if you're in Vail You're in parts of Idaho or Montana where you're up there and you can just see how beautiful that snow is. That skiing is something skiing and or / snowboarding is something I wish I would have picked up as a kid.
I tried snowboarding once. I'd never do it again.
It's probably dangerous. And is there a chance I'd fall and break my wrist? Absolutely. But it'd be a good winter activity. Something fun to do.
Yeah. I've never worried about that. And I'm one of them kind of crazy people, and looking at it now, I probably should be. But I'm one that I don't. When I've gone skiing, I've never worn a helmet. Probably should. But I have one thing I will say is I've gotten really good at falling and learning to not fall out. Like, I'm basically like Tom Brady in the sense that I practice getting sacked. So like I know like how to protect myself is my spin zone. And I'm also not going to go on black chicken like a black diamond. I know what my skill set is when it comes to skiing. I am green. And if I'm feeling real adventurous, I'll go down a blue. But I ain't going down nothing else. Like that's about as much as I do. I haven't skied in probably 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think when would have been the last time I went skiing. Oh, it would have been my cousin Logan's bachelor party. I think that was the last time I went. But that would have been in 21, so that would have been 4 years. Jeez, 4 years ago already? Holy crap. Wow. That was that long ago. Wow. But anyways, that wraps up this week's episode of the Three Guys Talking Ball podcast. Hopefully we'll be able to do some content here over the weekend together. You know, we might be, we'll tweet out where we're going to be watching the games on Saturday. So if you're around, come say hi. If you were at the Gophers or the Minnesota-Michigan basketball game on Thursday, come say hi. You know, it'll be my 30th birthday, so buy me a beer. We'll talk, enjoy it, and it's gonna be a fun weekend hanging out with these two goons again. Don't get over there much. It was usually this is my time. I'm in Arizona, but with my dad having hernia surgery, it opened up, and it just so worked out that Michigan plays Minnesota on my birthday, and it actually helps that Michigan is actually good at basketball this year, so they are worth watching. So hopefully they're able to come out with a dub, and we'll be back to recap everything probably next Tuesday would be my guess if everything goes as planned. So until next time, make sure you like, subscribe, leave a comment on our shows, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, 3GTV podcast. That's where you can find us. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. And thank you guys for listening. We'll talk to you next week.